Hi, everybody. Welcome to our show. This is English Digest, and I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our travel unit as we begin the month of March.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about going someplace that, well, it might still be warm now, but if it's in the southern hemisphere, right? So as we approach summer, they are approaching winter. So maybe you want to go to someplace that might be a little cool right now. So what do you think? Southern hemisphere, where would you like to go? Argentina or Chile or South Africa or down under?
Let's go down under to the country of Australia. That looks like a fun trip to take. And I love cool weather, so I think I'd enjoy it.
Indeed. And, of course, if you go to Australia, it's a huge place. It's a big continent as well as a country. But we're going to be focusing today on the city of Melbourne. Okay, that's not the one that has the Opera House. It's the one that's pretty far south in Australia, Melbourne there.
Yeah, I think Sydney is probably more famous. It has the Opera House Tom mentioned.
Yep.
But Melbourne is a pretty big city, too.
And it's pretty as well, and it's worth checking out. And maybe not so many people go to Melbourne, so if you go there, you may be doing something that none of your friends have done, and you'll be the life of the party. So let's begin our lesson, everybody, by reading the entire contents of our lesson today, and then we'll be right back. Every year, tourists flock to the glittering cityscape of Melbourne, a dynamic and cosmopolitan city that's one of the great multicultural destinations of the world. It's the coastal capital of the southeastern state of Victoria in Australia and the second most populous city in the nation with 4 million inhabitants. The city first boomed in 1850 as a result of a gold rush in Victoria's northern region, though it was originally founded in 1835 through questionable means. That year, Melbourne's founder, John Batman, bought the land from local Aboriginal Australians who unfortunately had no concept of owning or selling land. While Batman's treaty with the Aboriginal Australians was eventually declared invalid because he hadn't sought prior approval from the British Empire, settlers continued to flock to the area. The city exploded in size, and today, the metropolis boasts diverse architecture, including the Royal Exhibition Building, a World Heritage Site that dates back to 1880. The building hosts various exhibitions and other events, and its eclectic design creates a striking juxtaposition with the beautiful Carlton Gardens in which it's located. In fact, the building's unique structure was inspired by many sources. Its dome was modeled on the Florence Cathedral, while the main pavilions were inspired by the architectural styles found in France's Normandy, Cannes, and Paris. Another of Melbourne's notable sites is the Queen Victoria Market, known locally as Vic Market. Spreading across 17 acres, this major landmark is the largest open-air market in the Southern Hemisphere. This must-see tourist destination offers a variety of fruits and vegetables, a range of meats, and gourmet and delicatessen foods, in addition to clothing, shoes, jewelry, and handmade arts and crafts.
So we're going to talk about the many reasons why someone would want to travel to the magnificent Melbourne. I wanted to mention that a lot of people who've never been to Australia or don't have any Australian friends, perhaps, mispronounce this city's name. They say Melbourne, which I did as a kid growing up, Melbourne. For example, you know that movie series called The Bourne Identity, the Bourne films with Matt Damon?
Yeah.
We pronounce that B-O-U-R-N-E, Bourne. So it's not surprising that people think it's pronounced Melbourne, but if you look it up or talk to any Australians, you'll discover that it's actually pronounced as if it's spelled B-U-R-N, Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah.
We're going to talk about this great city. We're calling it magnificent because it's really beautiful, it's impressive, it's kind of extravagant. I wanted to mention, Tom, Melbourne is really famous these days for having terrific gourmet food. So if you want a good gourmet meal, you might want to go to Australia and visit Melbourne.
Sounds like a good idea. It's quite a long flight there,
yeah.
but it's worth the effort. And we're describing Melbourne. Well, first of all, the title describes it as being magnificent, which means really great. It's got the word magnify in there, which means to make something bigger. So magnificent means really, really beautiful, great, elaborate, striking, extravagant, etc., etc. And every year, tourists flock to the glittering cityscape of Melbourne, a dynamic and cosmopolitan city that's one of the great multicultural destinations of the world. So here we've got the phrase to flock to, like a flock of birds, a whole bunch of people go there. Glittering means it's kind of glowing. You see lots of lights. I suppose Paris is a glittering city because it's the city of lights. Or even Taipei or Kaohsiung are glittering at night with lots of lights. And the cityscape, of course, is just referring to the beautiful city and what you can see there. And we're also describing Melbourne as being dynamic, which means it's not boring. It's pretty exciting, but it's also changing all the time. You always see something new.
That's right. It's a fast-happening city. Things are happening there. Cosmopolitan, yeah. It's one of the great multicultural destinations of the world. When you go somewhere, you talk about what your destination is. Where are you going to? What's your destination? It's one of the great multicultural destinations of the world, meaning they've got a lot of different ethnic groups there. So there are different types of culture you'll find. So it's kind of fun to go there and see all of these different cultures kind of mingling and mixed together. It's the coastal capital of the southeastern state of Victoria in Australia. If you're on the coast, it means you're near the ocean. So we'll often talk about this place being a coastal city, like San Francisco is a coastal city. This is the coastal capital of the southeastern state of Victoria in Australia. And it's the second most populous city in the nation. It's got a lot of people living there. Population-wise, it's got lots of people. 4 million inhabitants. And so in Australia, at least, they don't have a lot of people there, let's be honest. 4 million probably sounds like it's a little city to people here in Taipei. We have 8 million, I think, in Taipei City.
Well, if you combine Taipei and New Taipei City, the metropolitan statistical area or whatever, it's around 6, 7, 8 million, somewhere in there. And again, it's a coastal city. It's on the coast, just like Hualien is a coastal city. And I guess Australia is divided into states, though not very many of them. They've also got some weird time zones there that you got to be aware of when you travel to Australia. And it's the second largest city in terms of population in Australia. I guess Sydney would be the largest. An inhabitant is just somebody who lives in a certain place, just like the inhabitants of Taiwan. The original inhabitants of Taiwan were the Aboriginals. Now, the city first boomed in 1850 as a result of a gold rush in Victoria's northern region. So if we talk about something booming, it just means something explodes both literally and figuratively. In this particular case, it becomes very popular or it grows really, really fast, as if it were a bomb exploding.
Well, and that's a good reason for a lot of people to go there because they had great hopes of striking rich, striking gold. So we always call it a gold rush. When gold is first discovered, there's a rush of people, a whole mob of people that rush over there to see if they can make their fortunes and become really wealthy. Some people who don't actually dig for gold are just doing business in the area. So you can make money just selling to people who are trying to mine gold. So it was a time in their history where a lot of people rushed to that particular region. It was originally founded, though, in 1835 through questionable means. If something's questionable, it means maybe some not very ethical things are done, maybe immoral things are done. We're going to find out how it was actually founded. It's interesting when cities are founded, you just need a group of people to go there to a new area and, you know, start building, start settling down, whereas before no one really lived there.
Indeed. So, yes, they say the city was founded in 1835, but through questionable, maybe dubious means, maybe something that's
illegal?
Yeah, maybe doubtful as well. Maybe not totally legitimate.
Yeah.
And that year, Melbourne's founder, John Batman, bought the land from local Aboriginal Australians who unfortunately had no concept of owning or selling land. Nowadays, we take that for granted. Who owns the land? Whose land does it belong to? Etc. Who's the fangdong, the landlord, etc. That's pretty much the case all throughout Taiwan. But back in the day, they didn't really follow those rules. So they said, here's some money for your land. They thought, what? What the heck is this money?
You're
what
giving
the heck
me
is this
money?
land?
Oh,
well,
great.
Okay, whatever trips your trigger, whatever makes you happy there, newly arrived white people, it's all yours. And so sure enough, they took the land, and that's why we're saying the city was founded through questionable means.
Yeah, I'm not sure they really understood that money was in exchange for land. So it wasn't really fair. If you're doing a deal with someone who doesn't understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish, it's not very fair. It's questionable. So they had some issues and problems with this later on. It says, well, Batman's treaty with the Aboriginal Australians was eventually declared invalid or no good because he hadn't sought prior approval from the British Empire. Settlers continued to flock to the area. When you talk about a treaty, you're talking about a document that is formally written up, and it includes the things that you agree to from both sides. So it's a treaty between two different groups, and it's formally agreed upon usually by countries. We talk about treaties between countries. But this Batman, which is a hilarious name, I must say, John Batman, he was the one who wrote up the treaty, but he had not first asked permission from his own country, which was Great Britain.
Exactly, and Australia remains part of the British Commonwealth to this day.
Yeah.
So this treaty was eventually declared invalid, which means it's no longer effective because he did not seek that approval or prior approval, which means approval ahead of time.
Yeah, before you sign it, you have to get permission. Yeah.
Prior approval. And approval here just means somebody says, yes, it's okay. If you want to go to the senior prom, for example, you might need to get your parents' approval. Some parents may not let their kids go to the senior prom, but the king or the queen, whoever was in charge at the time, said, hey, you can't be doing that because you did not seek approval from us. But still, the settlers continued to flock to the area. There was no stopping those people from going there. It was such a great place.
Okay, guys, this is probably a good spot to take a little break. Tom and I are going to go, I don't know, get a snack, I guess, and then we'll be back to continue on with the many reasons to love magnificent Melbourne.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天要介绍的城市呢，正是澳洲的墨尔本市。首先来看到今天文章的第一个句子写着Every year, tourists flock to the glittering cityscape of Melbourne, a dynamic and cosmopolitan city that's one of the great multicultural destinations of the world. 这个句子很长，首先呢，我们要看到主词，当然就是 tourists， 指的就是这些观光客。我们使用的动词是 flock， 我们呢就解释成为是成群的来或者是去，所以 flock to 就是成群的蜂拥而至到什么地方来，而我们在这里用了一个 glittering 当作是形容词，有闪闪发亮的意思，而动词 glitter则是呢有闪烁的意思。到了这个城市，它用了形容词 a dynamic， dynamic 就是代表是有活力、有动力的。譬如说 a dynamic young teacher 指的是年轻又有活力的老师。另外还用了一个形容词 cosmopolitan， 则是解释成为国际性的，因为它是一个国际化的大都市，而且呢也是世界上绝佳的多元文化目的地之一。在这里呢，我们用了 multicultural， 代表着就是多元文化的意思。看样子墨尔本呢，真的包含了许多美好的风光跟不一样的文化。第二段的第一个句子写着 The city first boomed in 1850 as a result of a gold rush in Victoria's northern region, though it was originally founded in 1835 through questionable means.在这里讲到呢，墨尔本这座城市一刚开始是因为淘金热，在这里看到的名词片语叫做 Gold Rush， 而它就因此的繁荣兴盛了起来。这里使用的动词 boom 原来就是有激增、暴涨的意思。举个例子来说 ，Business boomed after the Depression。在经济萧条之后，生意就兴隆了起来。虽然当时呢，墨尔本这个城市它是借着有问题的手段所创立的，在这里的 means 当作名词解释成为方法跟手段，在后面有说明。这一段的最后一句提到 While Batman's treaty with the Aboriginal Australians was eventually declared invalid because he hadn't sought prior approval from the British Empire, settlers continued to flock to the area.在这里提到呢 Batman 他当时跟澳洲原住民的条约最后被宣告无效。我们来看 treaty 这个名词就解释成为条约跟协定的意思。与谁签约，你就可以说 sign a treaty with somebody。当时呢跟澳洲原住民所签的条约 declared invalid 被宣告呢是无效的，因为它并没有事先向大英帝国来征求批准许可。这里的名词叫做 approval， 动词 approve 也就是同意、赞成的意思。尽管如此，移居者 settlers 还是持续的涌入这个地区。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The time has now come for us to continue with our lesson. We're talking about Melbourne, Australia. So far, we've been talking about the history of the city. Yeah, it was founded through questionable means, but that can't stop the fact that there are 4 million people living in the area now, and they're not going anywhere. So you might as well head there and have some fun. So let's continue to talk about some of the things you might expect to see and do in Australia here, especially in Melbourne. It says the city exploded in size, and today the metropolis boasts diverse architecture, including the Royal Exhibition Building, which is a World Heritage Site that dates back to 1880. So explode is like booming, basically. It increased rapidly. Lots of people moved in, and now we're describing it as a metropolis, which just means a big city, the chief city or area of a country. It's a big metropolis, and it boasts, or it has this, it can say it has these great things. It has diverse architecture. Diverse means all sorts of different kinds of things, and architecture just means different kinds of styles of buildings from different parts of the world. And this includes one particular building, which is called the Royal Exhibition Building, which has also been determined by the UN as a World Heritage Site. The UN does that. It sort of makes a list of all these places in the world that are important culturally, and so they put it on the list. I guess they might get money for that or something, or recognition, and tourists come to see it, and the city results in a lot of tourist money.
I like those World Heritage Sites. We want to try to protect our history, our heritage, our culture. And so some of these places are given money so that they can protect them and keep them from disintegrating. They kind of keep them preserved in their original state. So the building hosts various exhibitions and other events. Sometimes when you have one of these beautiful buildings, it's a perfect place for an exhibition where you're showing off other things that are beautiful, and you invite, the public to come and see. That's what they're doing with this particular Royal Exhibition Building. And it's got an eclectic design. Eclectic is an interesting word. It just means it's got a style that kind of combines a lot of different looks together. There's not one primary look. It's kind of a combination of a lot of different designs. If you've got an eclectic wardrobe, you've got pieces that look kind of punk. Maybe you have some pieces that are kind of classical, like a suit. But then you've got some crazy things that rappers would wear. You've got an eclectic design. Just style from lots of different looks combined.
And I have a rather eclectic taste in music. I like classical, jazz, rock, traditional. I like all kinds, even country music.
Yeah.
So that's an eclectic taste in music. And so the design of that building has a lot of different sources, and it creates a striking juxtaposition with the beautiful Carlton Gardens. We use the word juxtaposition a lot of times when we talk about architecture. It just means when something is placed in a certain place, it has a kind of contrast with that place. Okay, so I guess you could say it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition here in Taipei, with Taipei 101 standing out there in the east part of Taipei with very few buildings that are as tall as Taipei 101. So it creates a rather striking juxtaposition there. Kind of a contrast, you could say.
Yeah, it really does. The Carlton Gardens sound beautiful. I'd like to go see those. Now, in fact, it says the building's unique structure was inspired by many sources. If you're inspired by something, it could be a song, a person, a piece of art, maybe a book inspires you. It gives you great creative ideas that you then want to go out and maybe produce something creative yourself. Well, this design was inspired by many sources. We can't just say it was inspired by one thing. Nope. Its dome was modeled on the Florence Cathedral. The Florence Cathedral is beautiful. I've seen that one. That's pretty. The dome is this rounded ceiling. We call it a vault that forms the roof. I would say a dome is like half of a basketball. If you cut the basketball in half, that's a dome shape.
Good explanation there. And to model on means they just basically use the Florence Cathedral as its guide. It's kind of a copy of it. We've got the main pavilions inspired by the architectural styles in France's Normandy, which is the northern part of France. I don't know where Cannes is, but I do know where Paris is. They're all kind of in the northern parts of France there. A pavilion is, it's kind of a building that's used for a specific purpose. A pavilion. So I guess that's just a section of the main building. These pavilions, so you got to check out the design to see exactly what these pavilions look like.
Let's go on to the final paragraph. It says another of Melbourne's notable sites is the Queen Victoria Market. This is a place I want to go see. It's known locally by the locals that live there as Vic Market. We always like to shorten everything. So this is its nickname, Vic Market. If it's notable, guys, it's something that you want to pay attention to. You want to notice it. It's kind of remarkable. One of the things that's cool about it is it's huge. It spreads across 17 acres of land. An acre is a measurement for land that we use in English. And this major landmark is the largest open-air market in the southern hemisphere. Tom talked about this country being located in the southern hemisphere. It's really, really big. A landmark is anything that's very, very famous in some town or maybe in the landscape somewhere that's easily recognizable by people from a distance. And they can see it and go, oh, I know where I am. That's my landmark. This place is really famous.
And it's outdoors. Okay, just like that big market in Bangkok, this one is also outdoors, and it's huge. It's an outdoor market. It's an open-air market. And the southern hemisphere, of course, is, down under there. Or we can see the Southern Cross and other things of interest in the sky. And this must-see tourist destination offers a variety of things to eat.
Yeah.
Like fruits and vegetables that may be native to Australia. Maybe you'll see some stuff you haven't seen before.
True.
We've also got a range of meats, different kinds of meats, like maybe from kangaroos or whatever, and wallabies. I don't know if they eat those
I hope they don't eat those kangaroos. They're cute.
Certainly better not eat koalas. They're so cute. But in any case, they've got a range or, a big variety of different kinds of meat and gourmet and delicatessen foods, in addition to clothing, shoes, jewelry, and handmade arts and crafts. So gourmet food is just better food than normal, okay? You might get hot dogs if you want them, but you can get really gourmet food like crêpes Suzette and vichyssoise and boeuf bourguignon and stuff like that.
A delicatessen is a store that sells lots of cold cuts. Those are meats that have been preserved, and cheeses and salads. So they've got that. A hot dog might be found in a delicatessen, but it's certainly not gourmet. In addition, you'll also find clothing, shoes, jewelry, and lots of handmade arts and crafts. So you'll see a lot of artistic things that have been created by the artists in that area. This is the one place that I would absolutely run to. I love open-air markets. There's an open-air market here in Taipei on Beiping Lu. Beiping Lu, yeah, you can go out. They've got like a roof over it, so you're protected from the sun, but you can go out there and buy some fruits and vegetables and things like that.
Well, I like the handmade arts and crafts. You get people setting up their stands there and selling handmade jewelry and other kinds of trinkets and ornaments and stuff like that. It would certainly be worth checking out if you're looking for souvenirs to take back to your friends here in good old Taiwan. Okay, that brings us to the end of our first day discussing Melbourne. We'll talk about it again next time, but right now we're going to say goodbye after we hear from our Chinese teacher.
接下来我们首先要看的是在墨尔本这个很棒的建筑物 The Royal Exhibition Building， 它称之为是 a World Heritage Site that dates back to 1880s。 它是一个呢可以追溯回西元1880年的世界遗产。后面的句子写着 The building hosts various exhibitions and other events, and its eclectic design creates a striking juxtaposition with the beautiful Carlton Gardens, in which it's located. 在这里呢，我们说到这栋建筑物是主办，我们用的动词 host 有主办主持的意思，它办了许多的 exhibitions展览跟其他的活动，而它兼容并蓄的设计跟它所位于的卡尔顿花园则是形成显著反差的并列。在这里我们用的形容词 striking 则是有显著的突出的意思。最后一段要介绍的是 The Queen Victoria Market, known locally as Vic Market， 是维多利亚的女王市场。在今天文章的最后一句写着 This must-see tourist destination offers a variety of fruits and vegetables, a range of meats and gourmet and delicatessen foods, in addition to clothing, shoes, jewelry, and handmade arts and crafts. 在这个市场里面是 must-see tourist destination， 一定得要参观的观光景点，提供了各式各样的水果、蔬菜、肉类以及高级的这个美食。我们用了 gourmet 这个字，原本就是有美食家的意思。除此之外，还包括了衣服、鞋子、珠宝、手工艺术品及工艺品，都可以在 The Queen Victoria Market 当中找得到。以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
Thanks for joining us, guys. We're talking about the magnificent Melbourne in our program when you next listen to us. So come back then and we'll talk more about why you'd want to go there. I still haven't been there. I'd like to go there on vacation. I hope I have a chance.
Me too.
For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom.
Bye.
Goodbye.